Hello everyone and welcome back to Board of Tech. We're taking a look at Halo Campaign Evolved today, and I've been waiting for this game to get unlocked on Game Pass, and I'm really excited to test this out today. We're running the game on a Ryzen 7 9800X 3D, 32 gigs of RAM, an RTX 5080, and the monitor is the LG 45-inch GX9 5K2K resolution OLED. And let's quickly take a look at our settings. We've got the 5K2K resolution over there. We got the Ultra preset, which is the maximum preset available. Screen shake and motion blur are off. Let's start off with native resolution. And let's go through this quickly. So native is native, ultra is quality, high is balance, medium is performance, and low ultra performance. And for frame generation, we just have a toggle to turn it on and off. We don't have the option to switch between 2x, 3x, 4x, etc. The game doesn't currently show up on the Nvidia app, but I'm sure we should be able to switch between or force extra through the Nvidia app once the game shows up. So let's quickly take a look at DLAA so we can get an idea of what the textures look like, and then later on when we use upscaling we should be able to tell if there's any kind of ghosting or it is just the game renders everything. So everything is looking pretty sharp. We're getting about a 35 frames per second. That is obviously not that great. Yeah, the remake or the remaster or whatever, or the third attempt whatever you want to call it, it's looking pretty good. These textures are pretty nicely done. It is obviously a UE5 title. I am expecting that difference between quality upscaling, balanced upscaling, performance upscaling is going to be absolutely minor. So yeah, let's just look at that. There's one thing I wanted to note, that the textures or the animation of the water is just pretty horrible. Look at that, it's just a pixelated mess. I'm not really a big fan of that. Hey ho, this is what we've got. Just looking at the water over here, this is what it looks like, the grass and everything. So yeah, that's enough of DLAA for me. Let's quickly switch over to what our card can actually do better with. So let's select Ultra, which is now quality upscaling, and let's get an idea of what our baseline FPS is going to be like. The textures look pretty same. I'm not noticing anything. One thing I forgot to mention, I've used a mode to turn off the chromatic aberration and film grain. I'll leave the link in the video description. It's pretty easy installation, so if you're interested, I would definitely encourage you to do that. So these are the textures over here. They look okay. Yeah, not the best on the market, but it is pretty decent for the game. But the kind of performance I'm getting, I was expecting a lot more happening over here. Yeah, when we look away from the fire we get around 60 FPS, but when we look at these animations over here, our frames are dropping down into the mid 50s. So I guess the smoke, the fog, the fire and everything kind of pushes the game a bit too demanding in this space, but otherwise if we look away from that, we are decent performance into the 60s. Yeah, and our latency is a bit high, but I presume once we turn on frame generation it should be pretty decent. So let's try that and also make our way further up on the map. Yeah, we're dipping down into the low 50s over here as well as soon as I look at this area, but as soon as I step away from it, there's no fog and fire to render, so I guess we pick up back into the 60s. So yeah, let's turn on frame generation at this point and if our latency can be improved. Yeah, as expected, from 50s we've come down into the 40s. Yeah, you would like much less latency.
Incoming Banshee fighters.
But yeah, with frame generation I'm not noticing any kind of softness in terms of the image, and it is still looking pretty sharp. The graphics in the grass are looking pretty decent as well. The trees and the foliage, everything is looking pretty decent. So yeah, not bad of an experience at all. Yeah, just to let you guys know, I've never played any of the Halo games in the past. I never owned an Xbox and you never had this experience, so this is my first time getting into this. I've heard obviously very good things about it, so you never know, I might actually end up enjoying and picking up this series as well. So yeah, this is fine. Yeah, let's move over to our next performance test, which is the balanced upscaling. Actually, I'm just trying to look at these textures. They look pretty decent, even with DLAA. it was pretty much the same as well, and I'm not noticing any softness. Maybe is there any kind of shimmering around here? No, actually none. So at this high resolution, I'm not noticing anything that would say or put me off using frame generation.
Over the next hill. We should check to
I'm
see
trying
if there are
to
any
get
survivors.
any kind of, like, there's no ghosting around the crosshair either. So that is a pretty decent experience altogether. Sorry, I'm moving the camera like mad, but I'm just trying to find a fault, but I can't. And we're getting about 100 FPS and about mid 40s latency as well. So that is not that bad of an experience. I would obviously like the latency to come down, but you might be able to get that with performance upscaling. Yeah, over here, let's try looking at our balanced upscaling and frame generation turned off. So let's turn that off and go to high. We were getting about 60 looking away from any kind of animations and solid when we did look into those. In this area, I'm not really noticing much of a difference in terms of performance when it comes to switching between quality upscaling and balance upscaling. We are still getting about the same kind of performance, and our latency is pretty much the same as well. Yeah, there is no softness in terms of the graphics. The textures look fine, the character models look fine as well. All of these tones over here, the shadows and all that, it's looking pretty decent. So yeah, visually the game looks okay, but I'm not noticing much of a difference between quality and balance. Let's just quickly switch over to quality. This really does amaze me at times. So what would we be getting with quality in this area? So yeah, we're getting about 55, 56 FPS, and this area over here, it is again, it's picking up into the 60s. 55 to 60 is where we are at, so it's going to keep switching between those two. And let's settle up, bro. Now let's switch to balanced upscaling and see what kind of improvement. So you're getting about 5 FPS improvement, 5 or 6 FPS improvement, nothing too significant. Latency remains pretty much the same. We were getting a 56, 55 over here. Now we're getting about 62. So yeah, not that dramatic of a difference between the two. But visually, the graphics look identical between the two as well. So quality and balance is pretty much going to give you the same kind of visual experience. So switching, even getting those 5 FPS might actually help you out in terms of getting a better experience and then turning on frame generation. Let's turn on frame generation at this point and see what we get. Where's frame generation? There we go. Would have been nice to switch between 2, 3 and 4x, but unfortunately we don't have the option to do that right now. Yeah, let's see what we're getting. We're staying very much similar to what we're getting with quality upscaling. It is still pretty similar. Bruh, where am I supposed to go? We've got some bad guys coming our way, so good to test out some latency. Our latency again is very similar to what we're getting with quality upscaling and frame generation as well. Not dramatic there either. Again, the visual quality is pretty much the same. Am I noticing any ghosting? No. Is there any shimmering in the grass? No. The trees, the vegetation, the rocks, the mountains, etc., everything looks pretty much the same. So it's entirely up to you. Quality upscaling and frame generation, all balanced upscaling and frame generation, pretty much the same exact experience. Now, where are these bastards? Are you calling them? Let me get rid of these so we can just look at the graphics again. Yeah, for me this latency is fine. I'm not saying it's not a competitive experience that I'm having right now. In multiplayer games I absolutely suck, and I am not ashamed to admit it. Maybe if I do spend more time playing I might get better. Yeah, at the moment I pretty much suck at any kind of multiplayer games. So that's why you never see me making any videos about that, because I will just bore you by the amount of response that I'll take care of. Okay, let's enough dissing myself. Let's try to look at performance upscaling. Let's go to the next setting available, which is now medium, which is actually performance, and let's turn off frame generation. So now you get in some numbers. Let me go back down. Oh, did I have a bad guy here? No, where are the bad guys? They're down there. Okay. So over here we're getting about 62-ish FPS without any enemies. I was gonna say I'm out of battery, I'm out of ammo. we were getting about 62 FPS. Once I get to kill all of these guys, I should be able to do an actual comparison, balance upscaling. But for now, what are we getting? We're getting about 68, 69 FPS. Just trying to reach or touch the tip of our fingers on the 70 number. Yeah, we are again getting about the same latency, but now we've jumped into the 70s, while over here we were getting about 62-ish, I remember, with balance upscaling, but not a major difference. If you consider switching over from quality to performance, you are going to notice about a 10 to 15 FPS difference. But in terms of visuals, there is no shimmer or ghosting that I am seeing. Everything looks pretty, and it is a decent experience when I'm able to just walk around over here or run around over here, and if I can pick on any kind of anomalies. Was there any kind of pop-in over here right now? No, these textures are usually a bit, you do see some sort of artifacting around these, but I'm not noticing anything at the moment. I guess the shader compilation has finished as well in the beginning. Yep, it looks pretty decent with performance upscaling, to be very honest, and this is not looking too bad. Obviously I haven't gone further up, but there's plenty of vegetation over here and textures for the game to render, so it should pretty much be a very similar experience throughout the game. So with that said, let's turn on some frame generation with performance upscaling now and see what we are getting. Can I get a different weapon? This one just looks a bit childish. That's a bit better. Yeah, with frame generation and performance upscaling, we are about 110 FPS. Again, not that big of a difference in all of the quality, all of the DLSS upscaling option. There isn't much that significant of a difference that would sort of entice you into changing from quality to performance. But then in terms of visually, the game does look very much similar to what you were getting with quality upscaling and balanced upscaling. Even the foliage in a distance or at a distance looks pretty good. Yeah, it's not that bad of an experience altogether. Now, with that said, let's look at our last one, which is ultra performance, and let's turn this guy off. So no frame generation, ultra performance, and this
Look,
one
more lifeboats. They're coming in fast.
not
Those lifeboats make it
looking
down. The Covenant are going to be right on
that
top
great.
of them.
Now the trees are looking lower quality to my eyes. The shadows don't look that great, but yeah, you'll see a lot of artifacting around the trees at a distance. When I zoom in, it's okay, but when I zoom and walk around, there is artifacting and shimmering. Like these leaves are finding it pretty difficult to render when I move, so you're gonna notice a lot of like ghosting and shimmering around these, but otherwise, what are we getting? We're getting about 90 FPS, and it's okay. It's not extremely bad. Yeah, these trees look, when you move, there's a lot of ghosting and artifacting around the branches, the leaves, etc. But up close, you're going to be fine. Let's see if, yeah, this grass is not looking that great. I'm noticing some kind of shimmering around it as well. And what happened to that shadow? It just disappeared. But yeah, there we go, guys. So let's quickly turn on some frame generation. I'm just beginning to feel the nausea coming in. That's why I don't usually play first-person shooters. But just for you guys, I am here, so I hope you enjoy this video. Do like and subscribe and share it with your friends. And now there's a lot of artifacting around the leaves. It's not that, yeah, I would definitely, absolutely recommend using ultra performance. The trees up there are looking like a ghosty mess. That is just mashed peas over there. And yeah, I don't think the camera is going to capture that, but this is not a great experience. Do not go ultra performance and frame generation, even though our latency is now down to what, the 30s, which is okay. The game is not looking that great, guys. This is not good. Looking at this distance over here, these trees are looking horrible. So I would not recommend this. I would say let's try. What would be my recommended setting? For this game, I would be fine with using performance upscaling and frame generation turned on. And what do we get? That, yeah, this is a much crispier image. Even the trees at a distance look brilliant. The stones and everything look great. The grass looks fine. And you're getting about, the latency is obviously slightly high, but it's fine. Sometimes you dip into the 30s, sometimes into the 40s, but I am not noticing much of a difference in terms of my accuracy. And we're getting about 109, 110 FPS experience. There was one thing I wanted to test out, guys, was to use the Ultra preset and performance upscaling and frame generation turned on, and we're getting about, this is what the visual looks like. What are the textures over here? Let's have a look at these textures here. This is what these look like. That's what the foliage looks like, the trees and everything at a distance, and the shadows and etc. The fog over here, this is what it looks like. So, and we're getting about 125, or was it, no, 115 FPS around this area when I look over here, and about 120 25ish over here. So this is what we're getting with Ultra preset, performance upscaling and frame generation turned on. But now if I switch down to high and performance upscaling and frame generation turned on, the texture quality looks pretty similar to what it did with Ultra. The trees look pretty good. The foliage over here, the grass and everything, it looks pretty similar to what we were getting with Ultra performance. But now you're getting a good 10-15 FPS more. And I'm not noticing that much of a degradation in terms of visual quality. And if we go down over here, we're getting 130 plus. If you move your preset down to high from Ultra, you're not going to suffer that much visually, but you are going to gain about 15 to 20 FPS more, or well, let's just say 10 to 20 FPS more. Let's just go through these. My recommended settings would be using the high preset instead of Ultra preset, using the performance upscaling, which is medium over here, and frame generation turned on. And with these settings, you are looking at about 120 to 130 FPS experience with your latency down into the 30s. And that would still give you a pretty good experience with the RTX 5080 on this game. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will catch you guys in